Hey Shredders, this is EP3 of Learn From My Mistakes. In this video, we'll be going over my 2014 season. I was 14 years old and I was making some serious mistakes that took me a long time to get out of my riding. And that's the thing you're going to see in this series, is a lot of these mistakes I was making are going to carry over through years. I find ways to adapt them, shift them that allow me to do bigger tricks, but it isn't until much later in my snowboarding that I go back, fix these mistakes, and then I'm able to really grow as a rider. So my big mistake here is this throwing down, braking at the waist motion. We're going to start with a 360 and then we'll go on to this 540 attempt and just talk a little about this, why this is happening, and the benefits, the perceived benefits of doing it this way, and also the reason why it's such a problem. So first, what is the problem? The problem is a very intense case of braking at the waist. That's where your waist comes and leans forward, and you can tell because I'm reaching for the grab before my board has even leave the jump. If your arms are anywhere close to your snowboard as you're snapping off the jump, that means you're braking at the waist, leaning in to grab too soon. There's a couple reasons why I'm doing this. First of all, it's a confidence issue. If you're not confident, you're going to go and not hold that toe edge, start braking forward more and more. It's also a technical issue. So here, the technical mistakes I'm making are getting on my toe edge too soon, winding up while not going and extending my body. My wind up process here doesn't have any extension or hip shift forward. So I'm basically going and holding the same approach I was having on my heel edge, but on my toe edge, what's keeping me arced forward, even at the very start. So this is worse than braking at the waist. This is entering a bent over position and holding it. And then the next problem is all deriving from this upper body position. My snap, I won't be able to use much power, much force, because if I went and threw down with any force in this motion, my momentum would be sending me down, making me go off axis. So this whole wind up, this whole problem isn't actually giving me any benefit for power of a takeoff, because in this position, I'm basically only generating rotation from this arm pulling and edge pressure. Now, why am I doing this? This is happening first because I had a bad fall where I clipped my heel edge off a jump, caused me to fly backwards, land on the knuckle, really hurt, really shattered my confidence. So this is a way to guarantee that you never clip your heel edge because your weight's so set over your toe edge. The other reason this is happening is because, look at this. This form right here is exactly the same upper body position as I use for the duration of my spin. So I'm basically feeling uncomfortable coming into the jump and trying to preemptively get into that position uncomfortable. Because as someone who snowboards and did this trick a lot, not knowing what they're doing, I knew if I could get to this position, I was able to go and land on my feet. So that's why it sort of worked for 360s. We could get it around, but as soon as I go and try to move on to a 540, you start to see the problems and why it won't actually scale to bigger tricks. So, and the reason it won't scale is first, you're going through the jump. You can see how I'm going and landing very light on the jump here, not much impact into my legs. I hardly even need to bend my legs at all. This is a great indication, if you see this happening in your own riding, that you're absorbing the takeoff of a jump and not going up with it. Very few jumps actually have no impact. So if you're hitting a jump and it feels like it has no impact, no one else has mentioned that this jump has no impact, it's probably because you're not fully popping and it's giving you a smooth transition, but it's not giving you height. Height is so beneficial because it gives you more time to go and spot the landing. You'll be more over top of it. It also puts you on a more controllable arc that will help you go and feel in control in the air and also put you into a more predictable spot of the landing. So more vision, more control, what's not to like? And the other problem with this braking at the waist is it limits my power. So I'm almost grabbing my board as soon as my tail comes off the end. This means this whole wind up, this whole snap motion isn't turning force because I'm snapping, but then I'm holding my upper body in this position. So let's look at it. Upper body's here, here, here. So the only rotation I'm actually generating here is from that edge pressure and right here, this back arm pulling into the spin. And trying to go and generate rotation this way, having your body leaned over like this, leads to imbalance in the air, what we can see right at this moment, where my upper body is completely tilted towards, I don't know if that's my back or front foot, but completely tilted towards my foot. And you really want your upper body to always be set, stacked over the center of your board. You can have your hips tilt a little bit for like a tail grab or a nose grab, but you're trying to keep your head and your center of mass generally inside the bindings of your snowboard. This is going to put you on a more controllable axis rotation because right now I'm rotating with my upper body over here as my legs are rotating over here. So we're getting two different axes where it's all wonky and crooked up here, and it's on a flat plane of axis here. So you want your whole body on the same plane of axis of rotation, and you don't want that disconnect between your upper and lower body. You just won't be able to get power control. So breaking up the waist is the main cause of all of this. It goes and stunts your throw, making it so if you actually put power into your snap, it's going to flip you forward. That said, I was really pushing myself here. This was my biggest jump, and my goal for today was trying a backside cork 5. This is it right here. This was not my first attempt, but I want to talk a little bit about my first attempt because I think it's a good story. So basically, it's a bluebird day. I did a 360, I did a 540. I don't know if I landed them, but I do remember that before trying the back Misty 5, I spent a couple hours up top just crying, not wanting to do it, but I felt like I really needed to do this trick. When it's okay to be scared, feeling uncomfortable, sometimes I'm up for a day straight before trying a new trick. I got the jitters. It's important to not push so hard that you're going and actually bringing yourself to tears, because even though I went and brought the energy, the juice to do it, the reason why I felt that much fear wasn't because the trick itself is scary. The trick's just a 540, but because I went and built it up as such a big thing, and I didn't have the actual tools to go and land this trick, making it something, instead of a snowboarding trick, something that I can focus on, like, okay, if I focus on my takeoff, my snap, instead it was like, throw down here, and hopefully you land it. It's actually this next one that's the full Misty attempt. I'm sorry about that. Oh, another one. So I was trying to feel them. But if you're too scared to do a trick, it's a good sign that you're not ready to do it. Your eye's going to push a little bit of fear of snowboarding, but if you're crying, feeling like you really don't want to do it, feeling like you probably are going to get hurt, it's okay to listen to that. Because here, I got myself to try a back cork 5, but I never had any chance of landing it. I definitely didn't have any chance of learning anything from it. So here is the bad takeoff when trying to do a scary form. What do you get? An even worse takeoff. So I'm even more broken at the waist. My head is almost by my feet. My hand is almost touching the ground as I take off a lip. And the reason why doing a Misty throwing straight down like a flip instead of a spin is so problematic is first, you're not getting any pop off the jump. You're throwing down through it. Second, watch my head position. From this point into this point, I can't see anything that's going on. Imagine going off a 30-foot jump and you're throwing your head downward towards the snow. You're blind for a good second of airtime, and then you only see the landing as you're about to face plant. That's basically what doing this trick was for me, and that's why I wasn't ready to do it. So if your backside forms are breaking up the waist, you're looking at anything like this, take a step back, learn the fundamentals, get a strong 360, a good takeoff before trying to move on to these bigger tricks, because it will make things way easier and way faster in the long run. Here, my parents were giving me motivation, some support. That's a big thing that I had going for me is parental support. Even like if I don't know snowboarding, don't know what's going on, just having someone to support you, help pick you up is really good, because it's good to go and be critical of your riding, breaking down what's working, what's not working. What isn't good is being hypercritical. And what I had going on is I'd get critical about the aspects of snowboarding that didn't matter, like landing this 540. I was more bummed about not landing this 540 properly in contest, but I was about my actual form. So if you're going and self-coaching yourself and self-teaching, mindset's really important. You want to stay positive while staying vigilant of where you can improve. It's not a bad thing to be improving. It's not a bad thing to be making mistakes. That just means you're learning. So, well, I was really bad for going and setting it as like, if I'm not doing my biggest tricks that day, it's a bad day. Where really, I should have focused more days on, I'm going and working on this fundamental today. I don't care about the trick. Tricks are only an extension of straight airs, 50-50s, so the tricks themselves aren't that important. That said, I was starting to move on to bigger rails, trying to get some board slides on the kink. I get it sometimes, but I was really inconsistent on these rails, and that's because of how I was hitting them. I was really going and doing a lot of pop up. So you can see right here how I'm going and jumping, but I'm away from the rail, not fully letting my board come around. This is making it so I'm not getting all the way on the rail. And this is what I fluctuated between a lot this year of not getting all the way on the rail and getting too much on the rail and not being able to lock in. This is all happening because of a takeoff. If you're ever sliding off a rail early, it's because of a takeoff. Rails aren't very much about balancing as much as they are about getting on it. So right here, you can see that I'm more angled towards the rail to try to get onto it more, but I'm landing with my board completely flat on the rail. So with that much angle, with a flat landing, it's going to continue that sideways momentum, pulling me off. I recommend when you're hitting a rail to hit with the same angle and to really not try to jump up onto it. Instead, try to ride a little bit into the side. If you haven't watched Snowboard Addiction, the videos I've been doing there, we've been talking a lot about these principles, and I really think it's worth checking out if you're trying to go and get better at rails, because it saves a lot of hardship going in hitting rails properly instead of trying to jump onto them and tackle them. I'll make some videos on that here too. We'll see if there's any mistakes that we can go and show this an example of, but it's really a more detailed problem than we can just go and cover right here. So here we have one of the few 360s that managed to, or frontside 360s that made the edit. And let's see, we can't really see it here, so we won't spend much time on it, but good rotation, good pop. Looking up from a blind landing too soon, that's why I watched my heels, but honestly, not a bad front free. Even though I'm a backside 360 spinner, okay, we'll actually break down why this fall happens quick. Frontside spins are technically easier, like frontside frees. There's just like smaller problems that you can make in your riding that will make them not work. If you try to look over your shoulder, they don't work. So there's a bunch of little things like that that make front frees impossible if you're not doing it wrong. But overall, the form and technique is way easier. So why does this slam happen on backboard? I actually remember this moment. I remember being very shocked because I felt like I was going to have it really good. So let's see. Takeoff. First thing we can notice is a lot of heel pressure, a lot of weight over the rail. That's making it so when I rotate, yeah. So see how my butt's out this far? This is making it so when I pop onto the rail, my butt's still out that far away from my board. So I'm not balanced all the way over top of my snowboard. And as I start sliding, it's a little bit sleepier than I expected. My weight is shifted back from that takeoff, and that's causing me to slip out. So that's just too much heel pressure, too much leaned out. You want to be more tall of your snowboard than that. Here, we got my first ever back two on. Good rule, if you can't back free, don't try back two on. It's basically a back free with a rail there. But my takeoff here is actually a little bit better when I take off of a jump. You can really see though that even when I'm trying to do like this trick, I'm still really leaned over, basically full line, bending the legs. And I'm also taking off like right at the center of a rail. If you're doing a back two on, you really need to be to the side of the rail. You're going to drift a little bit. And if you don't, it's better to be slightly to the side of the rail than over top, because this is just going to make you drift over. But leaning forward like this won't work for a 270 on, because you need to lead with your upper body on a rotation. So see how my arm's blocking my rotation here? That's going to limit any ability I have to counter rotate and rebalance myself coming into a rail. So that's just a blind huck, very low chance of success. And here is a part I'm most excited to talk about because we got POV footage of the worst breakup of waist you could possibly see. So first thing, I'm getting on my toe edge too soon, and as I'm getting on my toe edge, I'm actually leaning more into it. And then I start snapping my spin too soon, and I finish my snap on my spin right here. So watch my right arm. That's my rotation being stopped because the hand's reaching out to grab before the nose of a snowboard even comes off the lip. If you're reaching down to the snow before your board's off the lip, you messed up and you don't want to be doing that again. So I'm throwing down, finishing my snap before my board's even off the end. This is causing me to do a couple things. First, scrub through. Second, lose all my throwing momentum. That's why we don't get much rotation. The benefit is it puts my upper body in that good backside 360 position. I have that arm leading, so I'm going to be able to get from my feet from here. But you're never going to be able to completely finish rotation. And that's why I'm landing under-rotated to the heels, because I don't have any pop, I don't have any up to go and get control of this air, making me very much a passenger. Here's that same trick on the same jump from a side angle. You can really see that my motion is swoop down, throwing to the toes, and then pulling through that. So this upper body position and everything's okay, it just needs to be flat. It can't be angled like this. And the angle is coming from breaking up the waist and throwing down. Not throwing down very well because, as you can see, I didn't go and get any forward cork momentum. But I was starting to play around a bit more with rails here and starting to hit them a bit faster. Still not fast enough. Oh, And that's why you don't try throw Misty 5s downwards, because you're going to get this. We'll rewind it a little bit here. Just watch. How are you supposed to land this trick if you do it this way? You throw it down, you see right here at 360, but you're already boned. If you're undershooting or anything, your head's just going straight into the knuckle. If you want to cork your spins, don't throw them like a flip, throw them like a spin. That's a great piece of advice that'll save you a lot of hardship. Here's an example of what I mean by extending my legs and trying to jump. So see how as I go and come onto this rail, I'm trying to go big, but I'm going and having my body fully extended, no wind up. If you're fully extended, you lose any ability to balance. So here I'm hitting the rail, completely straight-legged with my upper body tall and bent. There's no way you can go and cushion, adjust, move around like this. And this is all happening because when I jump off the takeoff, instead of going and letting myself ride up and keep bending my body, instead I'm going for a full extension. Whenever you're riding rails, try to avoid full extensions as much as you can. It makes it hard to balance on your edge, keep your center of mass. In fact, it's impossible to keep your center of mass when fully extended. You can only keep your stacked position with a little bit of bend in your legs, so never fully extend on rails. One more thing that I really think is more important to note here is look at the stance. I didn't know how to adjust bindings, neither did my dad, so I always had a whack stance, whacked angles. I didn't get this figured out for a couple of years, but if you don't know how to set up a snowboard, watch a YouTube video. Reference stance on your snowboard's usually pretty good. 9-12 on the angles, super good. Having a good stance, or at least close to the perfect stance, is really beneficial. You can be flexible, it doesn't need to be super particular, but you want to have a close to reference stance. Most people ride that, and unless you want to be a super rail rider, more narrow than reference isn't really necessary. You can go like one notch a little bit, but try to be within that range. It's going to make you a better snowboarder, trust me. And yeah, final recap for this year. Focus on your fundamentals, focus on your tricks. It might feel good and exhilarating to move on and get a bigger trick, get a dream trick, but it's going to hurt you overall as a snowboarder. If you're using proper form, you can go and adjust it and make it work to a certain extent, but you're going to find the limit of what you can do. And I'm very excited for the next video on this because we'll be tackling my 2015 season, and that's the first year I was able to ride 5 days a week. So I was actually going and really thinking about snowboarding, just making it my full focus. So I improved a lot, but I also made a lot more mistakes because of it. And I really started to see the limits of what my form could do. That said, I don't go and fix like this breaking up a waist problem for a very long time. It isn't until I moved to Whistler, joined Whistler Valley there, that I actually took a step back, learned these fundamental principles, and then was finally able to really grow as a rider. So really, I don't want to spoil stuff, but up into the later years, you're going to see me going and showing you how to do tricks in the improper way. So here I'll be explaining why it's improper and how you can go and avoid these mistakes and hopefully learn in a more streamlined way. Because if you go and take the time, focus on these fundamental tricks, stay positive, but stay critical, you'll be able to go and progress so much faster than someone going out there and hucking a trick that they're not ready for. So if there's one takeaway from this video, it's stay focusing on those fundamentals, keep working on your tricks, stay positive, but don't go and gaslight yourself into thinking you're better than you are. Get videos of yourself, look at the forms. If you see any of the mistakes that I went and highlighted in this video, go and try to correct them, think about them, because these mistakes will carry over for a long time. I have personal experience in that. They won't fix themselves over time. You have to take in the work to go and fix them yourself. So thanks for watching. We'll be back with the next episode to help you learn from my mistakes. Have a good one.